time I get an opportunity to go to a new place, I'm always blessed by that. And I was thinking about the songs that we were singing this morning. I have been in unity. I'm the third generation of unity in my family.
Right.
And those two songs that we sang are my favorite songs in the whole songbook. Now, nobody knew that, but that's, to me, is part of grace. The other thing is that I didn't read Daily Word ahead of time, but what I was going to talk about today is called the Gospel of Grace. I said, okay, I think I got it. I think today I've got it. And then I was thought about that over and over within myself as I was sitting here and just feeling blessed by the consciousness of this room and all of you who come here and pray and play and talk and share and are a part of it. And whether every seat is taken today or not is not important, but what's important is that every one of them is a blessing within this room. And as I was thinking about coming through and through the door this morning into this place, I was thinking, because I had met the Fillmores when I was a little kid, Merle and Charles, but also my mother. And my mother was never supposed to be able to walk. She was at 12 years old, she had a disease, and she was never supposed to be able to have children. Well, they came and stood, the Unity family came and stood around her bed, and she eventually got up off the bed and walked. And I was the first of 4 children.
All right.
So she never let me forget that I'm a divine idea in the mind of God. And don't you ever forget it, big boy.
That's right.
So I was just once more feeling that sense of, I have been in 27 Unity churches in one form or another. 14 of them that I was ministered in. But as I thought about that over and over again, some of them were like this one. It's not big in numbers, but some of them had, 2,500 people and 1,500 people. And then all over the world, my wife and I have in Moscow and in Budapest and a lot of other places throughout the world. And at one place in Moscow, there were 18,000 Christian people praying together, and they sang in the garden in Moscow. Of course, they didn't sing it in English. They sang it in Russian. But I thought about that again this morning, how, the consciousness of this presence and power and activity, it doesn't matter, we call it unity, but by whatever name, it is that unifying presence and power and activity of love and light that I also call grace.
Yes.
And Lowell Fillmore, one of the sons of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, made this statement about grace. He said, remember that the grace of God is God's love in action. That God's grace is unlimited and so wonderful that words can scarcely describe it. Does it turn you on like that? That the grace of God is moving in and through and as you and me. And that we can use words as mercy and forgiveness and compassion and goodwill and kindness and inspiration and generosity to describe God's grace. Just think about that. Forgiveness is a part of God's grace. Is there anybody here today that needs to do a little forgiveness here and there? Oh, okay. So let's get that. That by the grace of God, I can see and feel the forgiving of whether it's forgiving someone else or knowing that, and the one that I often have had to forgive the most is not my wife. It's me. About my wife. if Rama was here, she would laugh too. Because, but we sometimes say those kind of things to each other that, and you're newlyweds, so this won't be anything about you yet. But you know what I'm saying. By the grace of God, this unlimited activity of oneness, that we can use those words of forgiveness and compassion. How about compassion? Anybody love that word like I do? To have this compassion for what's going on worldwide. And if I said to you, I had last night, as I listened to what was going on between the two rivals for who's going to be president, I use the word compassion because each of them are trying to do what they think they can do in order to blah, 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 blah. Can I? Because my first reaction is, and then have to stop and say, the compassionate love of Jesus Christ moves through me and sees you in that movement of that love and light. As you perform whatever it is that you think that you need to perform, that might not even look like compassion. Mercy, forgiveness, goodwill, kindness, inspiration, generosity. The important thing to remember for me is that the grace of God that's not earned or justified or a payoff for being positive versus some other way of being. Or His grace is this pure, unconditional love of God, which is perpetually operative and perpetually expressing toward all humankind, no matter who it is. Big order. How's that feel? The grace of God moving through me. Put your hand there. On your own. Just think about that. That the grace of God is moving through me. This grace is pure and unconditional love that's perpetually operative and perpetually expressing through me to all humankind. And this week, that we will practice that. Would you join me in that? It's also important to be aware that certain states of human consciousness can become blocks to the fullest realization and expression of grace. So the next few days and maybe even weeks, if you can hold that idea with me, that we'll become aware of these blocks and learn how to consciously cooperate with the activity of grace that's already here and to remove the blocks inside of myself. So I'm willing to look at the blocks that I might have still there and then remove them one by one and give thanks that I can see them, feel them, and allow grace to play the role of perpetually releasing me from old conditioned thinking, old ideas, and that the consciousness of humankind has now reached a degree of enlightenment that the mortal mind that once resisted relinquishment to past beliefs and actions, I have now come to the place to cooperate with God's law. And this action has been good because it has brought me a long way from where I used to be. And I'm now willing to no longer use my mind to either punish myself or anyone else for breaking that law or mocking it, and to now live a life of understanding and willingness to see things for what they are and give thanks for them by the grace of God within me. And had I not seen them the way they appear to be, I wouldn't know the difference. So it's not like I have to be always positive, but when something comes up that doesn't look that way, I can use the grace of God to see it and see the good that has offered me an opportunity to see it by the negativity that's coming up. I'll even use that to remember that the grace of God is showing me this so that I can shift my attention from the old way and offer love and light. You know, sometimes in New Thought and in Unity, I've done this many times. I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to be positive. But I have found that trying to be positive and act like anything else exists doesn't make me positive. It makes me withholding. I have a statement I say to myself. It's safe for me to be out of control. How many of you love to be in control? Like me. And yes, what I've found is being in control is sometimes not willing to see what's going on, even though it's there right before my eyes so that I can see it and shift my awareness. So whatever needs to come up is now coming up for healing. It's no longer coming up to inflict pain. It's coming up so that I can see it for what it is, and by the grace of God, see through it to the truth. Am I making sense? Now, how many of you are still willing to do that? I'm willing to have whatever needs to come up for healing so that I can get to the real truth of who and what I am. And remember and use it as a way home. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Have I lost you? See, that to me is a very important thing. That the consciousness of humankind has now reached a degree that's ready to grasp the concept of grace, which is the law's fulfillment. And if we enter this study of grace with as much diligence as we have the study of the law, seeking to cooperate with it in every way, we'll take a quantum leap into our spiritual journey toward Christ consciousness that helps bring into manifestation the kingdom of heaven, which Jesus promised was at hand. And I call this moving from metaphysics, or being the metaphysician, to the mystic. We've had to learn, and we've been in the process of learning. And now we're shifting from one kind of knowing. See, being the metaphysician's been important to get to the truth. Now that we've done that, we're now moving toward the mystic of acting it out. And the metaphysician has received tremendous enlightenment through comparing opposites. And we're still doing that for a while. Positive thoughts versus negative thoughts. And have grown to understand that transformation of consciousness can only take place by identifying those thought patterns and changing them. Now, identifying with the old thought pattern to keep on doing that is no longer even possible. To go on doing it the old way. The Christ mind in you has identified with God only, and that identification produces its only effect, which is called transformation and earning and healing through grace. Still there? Yeah. You feel that within yourself? How important that is? How beautiful that is? See, and that's what Paul was talking about in the New Testament. Only enough words, grace is only mentioned in the gospel 7 times. But this is this presence and power. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. See, we've had to move through that process and then see it for what it is. Make sense? So the gospel conveys that meaning that grace, John in Hebrews names it Jehovah bestows mercifully. Yah, in terms of the word John, it's gracious grace and mercy of the Lord, like a dove, meekness, compassion, fertility, fruitfulness, love. Grace is love manifesting in, through, and as you, and you, and you, and you. And here we are. How many people do you think you can touch just driving your car home today? Well, you have a long way to go if you're going back to Houston. So you have a lot of opportunity. But just think about every person, or who's going to stop at a store on the way home, or you name it.
All the people in the store.
Everything, every place you touch today, every seat that you're sitting on right now would have been six. So all those who ever walked into this room are blessed by your consciousness of understanding the grace of God as love in action. By the grace of God. And that's mystical in its deepest sense of the word. It's practical, but it's also the mystic of you. Moving beyond thoughts held in mind into being it, not just mind over matter. That was wonderful. We learned how to get parking spots. We learned how to channel it. And that was all going that direction. But being it. I am a human beingness. By the grace of God, I am being this. And beaming it to all that I touch. A mystic. One who lives it in word and thought and deed and action and reaction. The next step in the holy wholeness of living the truth that I know in expression. Look at your brothers and sisters again. Look at each other. You know, we shook hands, we touched each other. You rubbed off on me. Thank you. By the grace of God, I live and move and have my being in the charmed circle of God's love. I live and move and have my being in the charmed circle of God's love. Want to say it? I live and move and have my being in the charmed circle of God's love. And every mind, heart, touch that I have, I give it forth in that one presence and one power of God's grace. I am an action. I am a movement of action. And I let it have its way in and through every cell and fiber of my being. We don't just know about it. We are it. You are the grace of God in action. Welcome home, O faithful one. Welcome home, O divine being. And may all that you touch be lifted by your love. Have a wonderful week, a wonderful day. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.